Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Conversations with Anne Marie. I am Anne Marie, the Art of Healing. Today, my guest is someone that I've admired for quite a few years. She is a fellow ACIM practitioner, and she's also a part of Tina Spalding's Channeling Jesus community. She is an evolutionary astrologer. She's very known for that. And she's also a longtime priestess and the founder of the Return of the Priestess speaker series. So if you haven't figured out who she is by now, she is the beautiful Dawn Delvecchio. So welcome as I switch over. Welcome, Dawn, to Conversations with Anne Marie. Hello.
Hi, Anne Marie. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I am also a longtime admirer of you. So I've been looking forward to this conversation since we booked it, basically.
I'm so thrilled. I am so very thrilled. Yes, you were a part of Tina Spalding's 10th anniversary event. And I was so impressed with the beautiful spirits that you brought through. The channeling that you did touched me so deeply and profoundly.
Oh, thank you for letting me know that. Yeah, it's my feeling is the more we do, the course for me, has been the clarifying tool par excellence to clear me, to be a clear channel conduit for loving guidance.
Yes.
And I do feel the more we do that, the higher frequency we can bring through, whether that's verbal channeling, which I'm well designed for, or anything, healing, whatever.
Absolutely.
Whatever. So thank you. That is to me a testament to my dedication to clarifying my mind of the obstructions to love's presence.
Absolutely. So give us a little story. I'm always interested in the hero's journey, right? So my general question to people is, how did you get to where you are today? I know it could be a very long story, but I know you and I both come from Catholicism, right?
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. So the basic story, the funny story that I say is that in 1984, I had a home birth. I was quite young. I had a home birth in the state of Connecticut, that it was illegal. So there was no legality or illegal, like hardly anyone was doing it. And there were 5 other women who were also having home births in 1984. And one of them said, let's start a mother support group. And we thought we were going to be, talking about diaper rash and weaning and things like that. And then the Mother Peace Tarot got introduced to our group by one sister. Then Starhawk's work on the spiral dance and earth-based ceremony. And so my joke, which is not, it's funny because it's a way to think of it, but it's not that far from the real truth. We started off thinking we were going to be a mother support group, and we ended up being a coven of witches dancing naked under the moon. We initiated ourselves as priestesses of the goddess in so that would have been 1986. My son, 86, 87. My son was 2-3 years old. It's amazing how long ago it was. And my journey continued through many, many different things over time, of course, trying to become like a normal person for a while, going into the warrior space. I'm a longtime martial artist and martial arts teacher. I would be considered a master teacher at this point in the progressive combative art of Muay Thai kickboxing, but stopped that long time ago. Got divorced, moved to Southeast Asia, became a professional writer, all of that. Then in 2016, so fast forward to 2016, and I was suffering deeply, and I was speaking at a conference in Bali called the Awakened Woman Conference. And I was speaking about business. I was a business coach at that point and an internet marketer. I had been trained by some really high-end internet marketers in Malaysia and in the spirituality, metaphysical space. And I was surrounded by women calling themselves priestesses. And I was like, you could grow up and be a priestess. I thought that was just something I did in the closet, So it felt like Divine Mother's call to say, those who are authentically seeking to be in alignment with love must rise now to teach. We can't have just anybody who thinks it's a groovy lifestyle to say, I'm a priestess, and never done a dark night of the soul. I had already been through about 3 of them by then. To do that. So slowly that became, I started to do that. And I had to do a lot of clearing of my mind. 2017, I married my husband. 3 days later, my sibling attacked me for hours on text, threatened my life, crazy stuff. And that was so painful. It was traumatizing. However, what happened next was that I was supporting a sister friend's retreat in Sedona, and I met Tina Spalding.
There you go.
And she said, and there was a point where everyone was doing yoga, and she and I were talking. I was like, so how'd you become a channel? And she told me the story, and she told me about the sibling that basically was doing something to her, not exactly the same, but it, because of what had happened, I really listened at that point. I really knew that this was for me. So that led me, of course, I started watching her videos, and of course, Ananda and Jesus, what are they always saying? Do the Course in Miracles. I'm like, I had that book for years. I'm like, okay, I got it. I'm going to do the Course in Miracles. And what is it, 6 something years later now, so many things have unfolded beautifully for me. Some challenges, of course, but that's in as brief as I can put it, in a nutshell of how I got from there to here.
Wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful hero's journey for sure. So talk to us about this priestess. What exactly, because most of us don't think of women as priests, priestesses. Even for myself, I consider myself, an ordained minister, but would I go so far as to call myself a priestess? There's still like a little bit of resistance there. So talk to me about what that is, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I think there are a lot of definitions. So I'll share with you what I see as a priestess is a sacred feminine leader. So she could be someone who has a public arena. She could be someone who's just leading her own life and her family from the space of the sacred. In this day and age, okay, so there's the historic priestess, the early historic priestesses. Right. We think of like Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Isis. They were in the lineage of the holders of the true in that part of the world. That part of the world, they were the holders of the truth of Christ consciousness, of the Essenes, right? So they were the sacred feminine, they were the holy women.
Yes.
They were the medicine women. Then patriarchy comes in, then we have, you get the chills. Yeah, I know.
I'm getting like, woohoo, yeah.
Then we have, the patriarchy really instills itself. And then priestesses, like in Greece, were the priestesses of the gods rather than the mother. Right. Before that, the priestesses in Greece and stuff, they were the priestesses of the goddess. Now, and then they became priestesses of Apollo and, things like that. And then we have like for example, the Vestal virgins, right? And then it gets distorted in patriarchy where they have to do 30 years. And if they're caught having sex, they're, ripped asunder in the public square, all this patriarchal stuff. And all this distortion of separation, whether it's patriarchy or just dominator. And then we have the Great Awakening of the Mother. And in my most recent newsletter, I wrote about right now, the mother has returned. The mother aspect of what we would call God has returned. And now the father aspect needs healing. Now, I'm not talking about God, our creator, capital G. I'm talking about the energetics within us that can attune to what we call God. The feminine has risen within many women. She woke up a long time ago, and we've been, from feminism to goddess honoring to those of us who say, I am a priestess of the goddess. I speak on behalf of and an emissary for the divine feminine face of God. Now the masculine needs healing big time.
Right.
And because the shift of ages, what's happening is I feel many priestesses are holding the pillar as sanctuary, as lighthouses, as healers for our sisters and now for our brothers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that you know, I can kind of go off on tangents. So my apologies, Gemini North Node.
No problem. It's beautiful. It kind of describes me, you know, it kind of describes what I'm doing, you know, in many ways.
Yeah, so,
now, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, so it's interesting. I think because so young in my life, from 19, Divine Mother awoke in me. I am an ordained minister too, but that title is off-putting to me because I associate it with the hierarchies of patriarchy. So I prefer the title of priestess, but I think sometimes we don't want to get too caught in the minutia of title, and at the same time, for many, that to hold the mantle of priestess again, this is it's an incarnational thing, is to reclaim something that we lost long ago, and it is much more resonant with the holy woman archetype as ordained minister is for other women.
Correct. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. One thing that I'm very curious about is your astrology, your background in astrology. I know very little, very little. I know about Mercury is in retrograde. I can understand it's a time of, you know, reflection and being, I don't know, but talk to, you know, how did you become so prolific in astrology?
Yeah, great question. So it was a dark night of the soul, my second, but it was very Pluto related. So evolutionary astrology in Western astrology, you know, there's Eastern, Western, there's a bunch of different astrologies. But in Western astrology, there are also different ways you can focus, systems, we call them. Evolutionary astrology, the focus is on the soul's evolutionary journey, hence the name. It was brought through by a man named Jeffrey Wolf Green. And so what happened was I had a deep, dark night of the soul, the harshest one that I had, that was really to hone me to be a spiritual teacher. It was to hone the old, arrogant, this kind of energy of Sagittarius South Node for any of our astrologer listeners. So the pain was great, and I sought a solution. I, for a minute, considered things like antidepressants, but I have never been a Western medicine person. I mean, I had my son at home in 1984, right? So one day I turned on the radio in the car and I heard an astrologer speaking, and I knew I needed to see her. And she took one look at my chart and she basically read everything that was going on for me. And I was like, it helped me so much to know that there would be light at the end of the tunnel, because I was suffering deeply. And she recommended Jeffrey Wolf Green's book on Pluto, because what was going on was a massive Pluto transit that was hitting almost every planet in my chart, all the key ones sitting on my South Node. So it was a soul purification time. It lasted 3 years. I began to study. And at the end of that transit, I ended up leaving my marriage, leaving my martial arts business, and moving to Southeast Asia. Well, the weirdest thing happened. I moved to Bangkok, Thailand, and the big bookstore had, whoever was the buyer for the books at that time was buying really great astrology books, not just, you know, birthday and sun signs, like deep astrology books. I built my library in Thailand. That was a small fortune to send it back home when I moved back home. But that's how it all happened. And I studied and studied to relieve my own pain. I studied my own chart. I studied my ex-husband's chart. I studied transits, all that. I never thought I would be an astrologer. It all seemed too complicated and confusing. Back then, to draw your own charts, I was like, oh, forget it. So slowly over time, I started reading for others, and they started giving me feedback and showing me that it was accurate. So after many free readings, then I would charge a little bit of money, and slowly over time, it just became a thing where I had such a passion that I became this evolutionary astrologer. So when I work with people, I am working with people who want to awaken at a soul level and want to align with their soul's intention for this incarnation. And so I don't look at, timing for buying a house, although I can do that and I can see it. I don't, I'm not here to tell you if the tall, dark, handsome stranger is the one for you, all of that, those old stereotypes, right? Same with tarot. I'm here to help you find, to support your soul's intention. And that's what evolutionary astrology, that's the lens that we are looking through. We're looking at Pluto, the outer planets and the nodes of the moon first, and everything else after that.
Oh, it's beautiful. It sounds like and it really, some things about these esoteric arts, sometimes I feel are a little bit frivolous. Like, just like you said, oh, is so-and-so the love for me, but it seems like what you've tuned into is something that is really, really soul. It helps the soul. It helps each human fine tune, or at least clarify themselves.
Yeah. And I think
it's beautiful.
I think this is why, Tina, I've had the great honor of doing tarot readings, astrology readings, and astrology talks at Tina's retreats when we're in the same place, usually Sedona, but this year she's in Sedona and I'm over here. I think it's because of that. There's nothing, I don't attract people who are living their lives at that superficial level anyway. And when I do, I can do that, but I'm here to work with those who want to awaken. And I especially love working with ACIM students. Why? They're usually ahead of the curve of what's shown astrologically in their chart. When I see a transit coming up, they're usually already on it.
Wonderful. That's very fascinating. Very fascinating. So tell us now about this Return of the Priestess speaker series, because I do remember seeing you hosting a large group of rather popular women, a couple that I know, Laura Eisenhower being one of them. So what brought this into your life, and how did you create this?
Yes, thank you for that. This is this is one of those beautiful stories of divine serendipity, as was meeting Tina, for example. So I woke up one morning it was in 2019, maybe it was the springtime, and I heard Return of the Priestess. And I was like, okay. I went as a good marketer, because I was trained in marketing, I bought the URL. returnofthepriestess.com. And then I sat on it and I knew what it was. I knew it was going to be a summit. And I was like, oh my God, a summit is so much work. I've never done one myself, but I hear they're crazy work. What if it doesn't work? I had no email list at that point. So I had no community really following me. I had a lot of friends. I had done a couple of retreats, basically with my friends, but I hadn't, and I was doing workshops at my house and things like that. So I knew that doing a summit is a kind of list builder. It will build your email list. So if you're clear on what your message is and your intention, doing a summit is a fantastic way to build your list. And in fact, I've since developed a course called Sacred Summit Training for spiritual people who want to build a summit. But anyway, that's another thing. So I sat there with that for a long, long time. And near the end of the year, near the end of 2019, I checked with my tech VA. I have an assistant who does like all my web design and all that stuff, who knows how to run a summit from the back end. And I was like, okay, I think this has got to be a summit. And so we picked a date, and we picked the date in April of 2020. And then, but I still didn't know, what should I do? What should I do? Should it be Return of the Priestess? And a woman who had just moved to Sedona, who had been at that retreat that I met with when I met Tina. Contacted me a few days before Christmas and said, hey, my husband and I just moved here. Do you know what we could do for Christmas? And I was like, well, my husband, who's a former chef, is cooking dinner. Why don't you come here? So they came over, and chatting with different guests at my house. She's like, I'm a priestess too. And I said, well, I have this crazy idea. She's like, I teach people how to run summits. She goes, I think that idea is perfect.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So anyway, I built and prepared for it. Came home to do the interviews right before the world lockdown. I came home in late February 2020.
Right.
And then the world locked down for COVID. And I rolled out my summit to basically a captured audience. No offense to my sisters. But because we were all locked in our homes. And so many women showed up. I interviewed 30 women, well, 29 women, plus I was interviewed by one of my sister priestess friends. And I could not believe the feedback I got, how big the list was, how much feedback I got. Women's lives were saved by that. Women who were desperate, alone. I was blown away. I had never knocked it out of the park with anything I had done in terms of trying to build a business. And this knocked it out of the park. And it was because I just followed guidance. I followed guidance and surrendered to it and used my gifts, soul level, seen in my astrology chart. And so then I did it for 2 more years. So I have 3, Return of the Priestess 1, 2, 3. And I've had the great blessing of interviewing some extraordinary women all around the world. Some of them identify as priestesses, some of them not so much, but they are sacred women doing sacred work. Like Tina, for example, was a speaker on my last series. And then I was deeply burnt out. And in fact, I trained a little bit with Tina, had offered mentorship with Jesus. And one of the things Jesus said to me was that I was suffering from, what did he call it? A low frequency burnout. So I came to Southeast Asia this year and I knew I wasn't going to do another one, at least not this year. So right now we have 3 Return of the Priestess series so it would be almost 90 speakers that you can still purchase those. They're amazing women from all over the world.
Yeah. How fascinating. I'd love to know what got you to Southeast Asia in the first place. Because it's not like, I'm just going to pack up and go to Southeast Asia. I mean,
okay. It's another great question. So, well, the real backstory is when I was about 9 years old, a little import shop opened up in our local mall in New Haven, Connecticut. And my grandmother she used to take me, I'm the only granddaughter, and she used to take me clothes shopping in every August for school. And so we went there and there was this place called the Purple Banana, and like incense was wafting out, and block print tapestry from India, and like Rajasthani little tops with the little mirrors stitched in it. And I was like, of course she thought I was crazy, but so the Asia connection, I know I have lived many incarnations here.
Yes, sure.
So my first trip, so then fast forward many years, I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I met the man who became my first husband. And he was a longtime martial artist of Filipino stick and knife fighting and Muay Thai kickboxing, which is the national sport of Thailand. I took to Thailand to kickboxing like a fish to water. And the first time I met his master teacher, Ajahn, which means master or professor, who's Thai, he looked at me and he felt he knew me. And I was so familiar to him. So fast forward many years later, I went to India. India is rough. I don't know if you've been to India, but I love it. It's a trip, but it's not a place to live. And then I did a 6-month sojourn through a sabbatical as I was running that gym and that business. I did a sabbatical and had people cover for me from Bali to Burma. And Thailand, I got certified to teach English as a foreign language because I knew my marriage would look like it was unraveling. So I needed a backup plan.
Right.
And I got a year visa with that. Back then you could get a year-long multiple entry visa, and went back home, wasn't working out, came back to Thailand, moved to Thailand, packed up all my stuff in storage, moved to Thailand. And I mean, this is my second home. So that was 20 years ago. I lived in Thailand for 4 years. And except for COVID and one other year, I basically come here every winter. I speak Thai, not 100%, And I have had the most extraordinary experiences here. And when I look again to my evolutionary astrology chart, I am wired for two places to live.
Wow.
And when I look to astrolocation, which is another kind of astrology I do, by the way, where you take the birth chart and you map it onto on the world.
Yeah.
I am a very big power zone. My sun ascending goes right over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And Laos is also a big part of my life now too, which is where the Ho Chi Minh Trail is. It's not in Vietnam, believe it or not. It's in Laos mostly. It's not just one trail, but anyway, I'm very wired for this place. And I have retreats here. Right now I'm researching for a new retreat location for next year. I have friends here. I have a passion for this place, particularly northern Thailand, but right now I'm in the south, on a stilted house where the tides are coming and going beneath me for me to attune to the tides and the dragon energy lines of the sea.
Oh my goodness, that's just amazing. I mean, everything you're talking about is just like bringing up such emotions within me. I mean, I'm very tied to the water. I'm tied to the dragons. And I recently, you're talking about where you should live. I recently just sold my house and I moved back into my old college bedroom in my mother's house.
Oh, wow.
I'm like I feel that I'm without a home. So maybe I need to give you a call.
Oh, I would love
map me out, girl.
Yeah, we can definitely look to the whole thing, the evolutionary and the astrolocation to have a look at what's strong, for you, what's open space. It's not always easy to live right under a line. Even a beneficent one. It's better to live a little away from it. So, for example, I lived for 8 years in Sedona. People love Sedona, right? Oh, Sedona. I had a Chiron line, the wounded healer, over Sedona. Sedona was not an easy gig for me. I do have retreats there. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's like living in a postcard.
Yeah, it's seriously.
It was nonstop. Heal this, resolve this, clear this. It was like, oh my God. I would get to go to Thailand just to get a break from that energy. Even though I did love it and I did a lot of earth connection there, but a hard place to live when you're right under the line. It's like that energy is constantly on you.
Yeah. Another thing where we are kind of doing the same thing, you have been doing prayer for the earth on your YouTube. I had done for a period of time, a few months last year, prayer warrior meetings, and we were targeting specific areas of Florida, trying to blast it with love light to really change the frequency of that particular location. So talk about what you're doing and why did you decide to do that?
Thank you. I love this conversation. So when everything started happening, after the first return of the priestess, I made, you resonate more with some people than others. So I connected very deeply with a Incan high priestess in Peru named Corianca, which means eagle in Peruvian, or maybe it's the traditional language. I'm not sure. And the Incan language, I think it is. And so we talked about what was going on in the world and how hard it was for people. And it was actually her idea to let's do a monthly prayer circle called Prayers for Humanity. And we would take turns every month being the facilitator. So we started that. So we have been doing this for more than a year now. It's an absolutely free gathering. There's no promotions, so we don't promote our stuff during it or in the email. So it's not like a lead magnet to try and bring in other people, sell other stuff. It's literally a service. Now, when I lead them, and the way she does it is absolutely beautiful too. Nothing wrong. It's her earth medicine, her Incan tradition. I typically bring in very much course principles. So yesterday we just had one, and it was strengthening the Sacred Heart because we just had Valentine's Day. And so what I wanted to do was really recognize, of course, that from the non-dual perspective, there's only one of us here. Everything out there is a reflection of me. So if I want to help other people get out of fear and hate and separation, I got to do it myself. So I have my typical way of teaching and leading, whether it's that or other things, is I like to bring big picture perspective, like a teaching principle concept, framing the concept. And then I go into a meditative state and do something guided, and that's channeled. That's totally channeled. So what came through from what I remember yesterday is basically bringing forward an aspect of ourself that we need to heal, forgive, and let off the hook.
Right.
And release the aspect of that we felt guilty about. Like, let's say it was something you did that you regret.
Mm-hmm.
You release that part, and then you pull that part into yourself. So you're literally pulling in fragmented aspects of self,
Right.
which is a whole evolutionary astrology thing too, by the way. And then from there, working with Kuan Yin and the Dragon Mothers, Nagakanya, the Dragon Mother of Nepal, sending out compassionate light to all of our sisters and brothers who need it through the ley lines, through the energetic lines of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just an example, but every different month it's a different theme. There's been lots of themes depending on what we're doing. And I really, we love it. We have between 45 and sometimes 100 women on the call who are devoted to offering love and forgiveness to the Earth, to the people of Earth who need us right now, who need that light right now.
I think that's just absolutely beautiful. It means it resonates deeply with me. It resonates with me from my Catholic background. And I do this, I've been doing this pretty much for the past year. Going back to that community, if a member of a congregation was sick, the whole congregation would pray for them. Yes. So we're connecting ourselves, connecting with our love, and really bringing forth change that way. So it just totally resonates. And I did attend one. I remember.
Yes, I remember. Yeah. I felt so honored to have you there.
Oh God.
I didn't even check on my email list. Awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll catch it, next time around. I do get your newsletters and all those wonderful things. Well, it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and not just see you on a video or on a retreat or something like that. I appreciate your work. And I find you to be a very wise teacher. So thank you for all that you're doing. It really means a lot.
Thank you. It's been really an honor, and the feeling is mutual, and many blessings to you and to all those who will listen to this conversation.
Oh, that's beautiful. And if somebody needed to get in touch with you or see your videos, where could they go?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I think you go to YouTube and then you just type in my name, Dawn Delvecchio. I think it's / Dawn Delvecchio. You can also reach out to my assistant, Lori, at support@dawndelvecchio.com, or my website, dawndelvecchio.com.
Very, very good. Are you doing anything upcoming that we should know about?
Yes. Oh, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
Let's see, there's a few things. I have a retreat right now in New Mexico, and my home in New Mexico, but that's full. That's in May. I'm about to be offering a course called Divine Mother Codes, which I have been sitting with for more than a year. Just like with Return of the Priestess, it dropped in. I'm like, okay.
I'm writing this down.
I had nothing. And then all of a sudden, after working with the Dragon Mothers here in Southeast Asia, it all came through in a rush. So Divine Mother Codes begins on spring equinox.
Okay.
And that's an 8-week course. So if you're interested in that, the best thing to do is get on my email list, because it's not been announced yet unless you're watching this after March 21st. And I will be hosting a retreat in Thailand next year, another one at a hot springs place in New Mexico in the fall. So there's a weekend freedom and forgiveness retreat. I'll be co-teaching with my radical forgiveness coach and
Ooh.
assistant in my community, Lori. That's going to happen in June. So lots of good stuff, lots of yummy stuff coming up.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, what a pleasure it is to have you. Thank you so much for sharing who you are with my little group of people who follow me. And thank you to all of you beautiful souls that have stuck it out to the end of this podcast. I thank you so much. And once again, if you need Dawn, you can just check her links in the description below. If you need me, you can find me at AnneMarieTheArtOfHealing.com. I love you. Thank you.